Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, EQ Nostalgia here, and welcome to my review for The Division. I almost didn't make this video because the game's been out for so long, guys, but it's one of those games that gets better over time. We are at 1.3 in the patch list now, and there have been several things added to the game over time, so I think it's worth it to do a review now to bring people up to speed. And not only that, this is my first time with the game. I've only had it for about a week, so I will be giving you guys my full impressions. Now, just to be clear, I am not going to be reviewing the DLC for this game, nothing that has to be bought, nothing with the Season Pass. I'll have a separate video for that. So this is just the vanilla game and all of the free patches. I am going to be reviewing this game on a pros versus cons kind of a system. I do not believe in the scoring system. I think it's inherently flawed. So first up, let's talk about the aesthetics of this game. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I can only run it on just about medium high-ish settings with a respectable frame rate because it does seem to be a little bit demanding. I do have a GTX 960 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and an AMD 4 gigahertz 8-core processor. That having been said, even on medium settings, I think the game looks very good. Obviously, it doesn't look as good as what Ubisoft led us to believe when they first unveiled trailers, and that has been a topic of much controversy. But nevertheless, I do think that this is a very beautiful game. It has tons of atmosphere. One of the things that I like about this game the most is that it just nails that winter feeling in New York. You get that sense. Of course, well, if New York was a dilapidated hellhole that was completely falling apart because people were dying left and right and there was anarchy in the streets, but that aside, I think it is a very atmospheric game and it nails that that New York feeling. I happen to be a New Yorker, so I guess that makes me a little biased, but the atmosphere is fantastic. The lighting is fantastic. I love the Christmas setting that they have. It's like everybody had decorated for Christmas and then the shit hit the fan and nobody could be bothered to take down Christmas decorations. Christmas is over. That shit is over, and it's just there as like a reminder. It's just of how much better it was before. There's garbage all over the streets because obviously sanitation is gone. Nobody's going around and cleaning the city, and I like that. Some people might think that that doesn't really add to the character of the game, seeing garbage everywhere you go. But I think one of the things that really strengthened this game that I think a lot of people didn't pick up on is the fact that the city feels so varied. Each section of the city that you go to has a very distinct feel. There are different things happening, different lighting. There might be car pileups or poles knocked over. You can tell where you are. It doesn't all feel like just one big city that's all the same. You have the different sections, and they're very distinct. So I think that helps to keep the level 1 through 30 gameplay from feeling tedious. Now, I can't say the same about the 30 plus gameplay. Once you get to end game, things start to kind of drop off rather rapidly. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I do want to talk about that towards the end of the video, but I have to say that the music and the sound in this game is phenomenal. It's just perfect. I love it. I love the fact that they have this synth pop kind of music going on, this very 80s kind of vibe, which is something I was not expecting from The Division, but you get that in a lot of the missions. It reminds you of like an 80s or early 90s action film, and I absolutely love that. The sound of the guns, everything sounds really nice. If you're firing in an area where there should be an echo, there is an echo. You hear echoes from characters speaking in dialogue and when they're inside of buildings and things. And all of the different explosions sound great. The wind and all the weather effects, things that you can hear in the background like shots firing blocks away, the occasional dog barking and stuff like that. That all helps to create an atmosphere, which I think is one of the game's strongest points, atmosphere. Now, control-wise on PC and on console, I think the game controls great. I love the way it controls. I like the fact that you can get into cover, you can get out of cover quickly, which is something you're going to be doing a lot in this game because the enemies like to flush you out with grenades all of the time. It can be a little annoying, but at the same time it keeps you on your toes and keeps you moving. This is a game where you just can't hide behind cover and fire. You're going to have to move around. The enemy's going to force you to move around, and thankfully that's easy to do. Everything's quite intuitive, and I don't have any complaints with the controls at all. Now, in terms of customization, I feel like the Division shines in this department. There's a lot of different skills that you can pick from. You can have things just to send out a pulse. You can have turrets. You can have smart mines that blow up on people. You can heal people. You can have heal stations. And all of these you can mod and customize different ways. Like, for example, there's a healing station that can also immunize you from fire and being shocked and things like that. Or you can customize it so that it gives you more ammunition over time. There are plenty of mods for your skills. There are plenty of mods for your guns and equipment, so you can build the character you want. If you want to be tanky, you can be tanky. You want DPS, you can do that, or you can increase the potency of your skills. Now, in terms of customizing your appearance, I like what Ubisoft has done with the Division. They have separated appearance gear from gear with stats, so you don't have to have something ugly on just because the stats are good. However, that's kind of made moot by the fact that gear is just kind of boring. It doesn't really look that good. You can get really creative with it and mix and match different sets and to give yourself a unique look like I did. I like the fact that I have the white coat thing going on with the orange underneath, and I think that that looks pretty cool, but it's certainly not anything like World of Warcraft where you have flaming pauldrons. But then again, I don't think I'd want something like that in this game. So the customization isn't terribly exciting, but you can make your character look the way you want them to look. And I do feel like there's a decent amount of customization here, enough to where everybody doesn't look the same and you can have your own individual style. So at this point, I want to talk about the level 1 through 30 content. I feel it's very strong. I was addicted to this game, and I played it way more than I'd like to admit for the level 1 through 30 content. I blew through it in a matter of like 3 days, guys. I absolutely loved it, and I spent a lot of time with it. And after that, it's just, there's kind of like this hollow feeling that comes once you get to the end of everything and you're like, that's it? Is that really it? Is there any more storyline missions or anything? Because the strongest thing about the Division is that at first, when you first get your hands on it, there's a lot to do. There are many side missions, and you want to do those to increase resources, to build up your base, to unlock more skills. And that is something that is like the carrot on a stick I often talk about here on the channel. The carrot on a stick for the Division was strong. Was very strong in the beginning, and then the carrot slowly started to become more of like a stub with just like kind of the leafy stuff at the end, you know what I mean? Like it's already been gnawed on. That's how I describe the Division post level 30, because what you're doing post level 30 is you're just grinding for gear. One of the things about this game that's so jarring is that once you do hit level 30, it's all about the gear score at this point, and because of that, there's this huge gap where you're all of a sudden nothing. It's like you're level 0 and everybody's level 10. So you'll go into an encounter and get your ass handed to you, and you slowly have to build your gear up to a respectable level, and you'll find yourself queuing for instances that people don't want you in. They'll look at your gear score, they'll laugh at you, and they'll kick you, and then you'll have to just kind of go through the motions. Now, I got lucky. I didn't have to start with like hard gear and then make my way up to challenging gear. I hopped straight into challenging with like a gear score of 70, and I got carried up to like a gear score of 170 to where people weren't bitching anymore. But it can be kind of a pain in the ass if you're just grinding all the way through hard like 10, 15 times to get a good set of gear, then going to challenging, doing that again, and it can just be a pain in the ass. Luckily, I skipped a little bit of that. Now, the reason why this is so jarring is because the level 1 through 30 content, you're sufficiently geared for the most part all the way through, so you don't really run into a wall when you come up against enemies that you just can't seem to damage and they're destroying you. This is what happens in level 30 plus content. All of a sudden you'll get into an instance and you'll understand real quickly that you are not the man anymore and your gear is shit, because you're not putting any dents in anything. You're getting dropped left and right. Your teammates are constantly having to get you up until you gear up, and it's really jarring. And level 1 through 30 content doesn't really function like that at all. If you do have a challenge, well, you can go and buy some gear from a vendor, and for the most part, you'll be okay. And level 30 plus content, forget it. You hit a wall, and I think a lot of people can't get over that wall. I think a lot of people get discouraged. They'll get into groups, they'll try to grind for gear, and they'll fail repeatedly, and they'll walk away. So that, in my opinion, is the Division's biggest problem. Now, the Division does have a decent amount of things to do at endgame, but the problem is that you've seen it all and done it all before, pretty much, because it's the same thing. You just go out and you fight. You get into a firefight with enemies that are essentially the same as they were before. Nothing really changes that much. The most variety you get in this game is a chopper and like an APC unit that you have to blow up that has turrets and stuff on it. There isn't really anything there raid-worthy. There's no crazy bosses that they could get creative with, like with Borderlands, for example. You don't have like any crazy huge beastly guys that you have to shoot. It'll just be a guy with a lot of armor coming after you over and over again. So it starts to feel very been there, done that. Even though there are plenty of things to do, it's essentially the same thing. You'll have high priority targets that you can chase down, and different types of currency that you'll need to unlock weapons and blueprints to get better weapons and things like that, but you've done it all before. For me personally, I do not regret my purchase of The Division. I got it for $40, so I did get it on sale. I feel like the level 1 through 30 content alone was worth that money because I did have so much fun with it. Now, at this point, I am still having fun with it, but I don't play it nearly as much as I used to. And really, is that a bad thing? If you put 40, 50, 60 some odd hours into a game and you're still going, or even if you hang it up, did you not get your money's worth out of it? Did you enjoy that at time that you spent with it? That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion, and I did enjoy my time with The Division, and I continue to enjoy my time with it to this day, albeit in much smaller doses, but nevertheless, I'm very much looking forward to the future of this game. I hope Ubisoft continues to push the game forward and doesn't just wrap it up after these first 3 DLC packs that are included in the season pass. I hope it gets the Destiny treatment and it continues to get expanded upon. I would like to go to different cities with different enemies and more story missions. I think that's what the majority of fans of this game want. They want more PvE, and that's something that's kind of a shame because it seems like a lot of people have abandoned the PvP because there's a lot of hackers and there's a lot of people who just, they kill on sight, they kill everybody, and then they'll shit talk you. I've heard horror stories from people that go in there, and I myself have encountered some of those things, mostly in the beta, so I know better. I know to stay out of there unless I have people to go with, but it's not a very friendly place for people who just want to go and maybe get into some PvP and not get completely stomped. They want to have a chance. So I think that this game needs a competitive mode where maybe you just go in with classic maps and you have an objective of like a 4 versus 4 where you have to get some sort of data and get out, and if you win you might maybe get some currency towards purchasing weapons, maybe you get some skins and things like that. It definitely seems like they need to do more with the PvP. They only have that one place for PvP, and they just kind of threw it in there. They're like, well, here you go. You guys can go kill each other and extract things. And I don't think it's really turned out the way Ubisoft wanted it to. I think it's kind of turned into a little bit of a toxic thing that most people just avoid. I know I have avoided it, and that's a shame because I think there's a good multiplayer component that could be put into place here, but it just hasn't been done yet. So just in closing, I want to say that I think this game is worth your money if you get it at $40. $60, I'm not really vibing with that for most people. For me, I think it's worth it. I've gotten that much value out of it personally, but most people aren't into that constantly grinding for gear at the end of a game. Most people don't want to go around and collect all the different bits of intel and cell phones everywhere. I don't have a problem with that. In fact, I enjoy it. I happen to be one of those completionist personalities, so I've really enjoyed my time with the game. But at this point, I want to kick it over to you guys. What are your thoughts on The Division? Have you played it? Let me know down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to rate it thumbs up. If you're new here, I ask that you please subscribe. I thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you all in my next video.